Hi everybody and welcome to another exciting edition of Boring JavaScript. I'm your host, the Virtuoid, aka Mike Smith, and today we're taking a look at the adapter pattern. The adapter method does exactly what the name implies. It adapts one interface to another. So suppose you had an application. This application talked to a library, and this library happened to have about 100 different methods, and your 100 pages in your application use these 100 different methods in 1,000 different ways. Everybody's happy until another library comes in. And this new library does the exact same thing, but its 100 methods are different than the 100 methods that are inside of the first library. So what do? Well, you change your application to be able to talk to the new library. So your 100 pages over using these 100 different methods over these 1,000 different ways has to all get changed. It's very time consuming, but you do it. Well, a third library comes in with the same type of problem. Well, you change your application again. It's 100 pages over 100 methods, 1,000 different uses, it gets changed. And then the fourth one comes in, and you got to change it again, and the fifth one, and sixth one, and so on and so forth. You can see the major problem that's going to occur. This is where the adapter pattern comes in handy. The adapter basically, again, changes one interface to another. So if you had an adapter pattern in between your application and the library, then this adapter pattern will basically say, okay, I'm going to change all of these methods and adapt them to be able to use a certain API that I control, and then I use that API within my application. So what happens when the second library comes in? No problem. The adapter changes its one file to say, okay, well now this new method gets changed again, but I adapt it to the same API that I'm using in my application. The application couldn't care less where the data is coming from or what library you're using. All it knows is I've got these 100 APIs that's been defined by the adapter. So if you included a third library in there, or a fourth library, or a fifth, or a sixth, or so on and so forth, it doesn't matter. All you have to change is to create one new adapter to be able to adapt the methods of that particular library to the API that you have determined that is used by the client application. It is a wonderful method to normalize the interfaces from multiple different sources into something that you know how to work with. You want to see how it works? Let's get started. So let's first take a look at why we would need to use the adapter pattern. I have an HTML file here that when I click on a button, it will fill up a table of a zoo table here for 50 different animals into the rows. And where do I get this information? I get it from a class called animal repo. When I construct the animal repo, it does a fetch of my JSON file, converts it to JSON, gets the data, saves off the data, says that it's true, and then if I pass a when ready function, it will call that when ready function. So it will let the calling program, in this case my zoo program, know when it is ready. So whenever I want to add an animal, it first makes sure it's ready. It grabs a random animal out of the list and removes it, and then it builds a TR HTML line that gets inserted into my table. So all my zoo has to do is obviously import the file, get the pointers to the T body and the fill zoo button, call the new animal repo with my when ready, and when my when ready is when it is ready, it will remove the attribute called disabled. And then way down at the very bottom here, I will click on the when I click on the fill zoo button, it does the fill zoo. Now what this fill zoo here does is obviously it just runs animal repo.add animal 50 times. Now that's actually a horrible way of programming, but I did this on purpose to kind of show you that if I was to have any kind of changes that occur to this particular program, I would have to change this particular routine 50 different times. So imagine that animal repo possibly could have had not only an add animal method, but maybe a remove animal method, or a change animal method, or a transfer animal method, or maybe 20, 30 different methods. And imagine that I just don't have 50 operations here. I may have 200 to 300 different operations scattered over, let's say, 40 to 50 JavaScript files, all compiled into my major app that uses animal repo. So just, that's what this kind of represents here. So just kind of imagine that this represents a large, giant application. So if we just go to our browser, let me do a Control F5 to clear out the screen here, and we click on Fill Zoo. And we got our 50 different animals into our zoo. So where does the adapter pattern help us? Well, your boss comes to you and says, I've got this new repository, and we're going to be using this new repository instead of our old repository. You say, okay, no problem. I'll take a look at it. And immediately you look at it and you say, oh, we got some major problems. Because with our old one here, we called add animal to be able to grab a new animal. Well, it's not called add animal anymore. It's now called retrieve animal from repository. So that means every time I have add animal, I've now got to change it to retrieve animal from repository. Is that what I called it? Yeah, retrieve animal from repository. And again, if I had to remove animal or change animal or transfer animal or something like that, it may have other types of names besides just add animal. What's another problem with it? Well, let's take a look at the constructor. Still does the fetch of the JSON file, still converts it over. It still tells itself when it's ready, but it doesn't tell you when it's ready. So it has no way of letting you know when it is ready. So we got a major problem here. If we were to be able to convert our code to be able to use the new repository class, not only are we going to change all of this, but we're also going to have some way to be able to know when that particular class has finished doing what it's doing. How can we do that? Well, that's where the adapter pattern comes in. And we'll show you that next. Now, as you learned earlier in our video, the adaptive pattern is something that the adapter pattern is something that we put in between our client and whatever we're talking to be able to, for lack of a better term, normalize the communications between our client and that object to which we're talking to. And that's the big problem that we're having here. Within our animal repo, we already knew that, okay, we've got an add animal object, our add animal method here, and that we pass a when ready to the fetch or to the constructor to be able to know when that fetch has occurred. Now, of course, new animal repo doesn't have any of that in there. So what can we do? Well, what we can do is create ourselves an adapter to be able to say, okay, this adapter is going to communicate to new animal repo for us, and then adapt it to where it will automatically get us back a when, or automatically call a function when it is finished with the fetch, and also do a add animal instead of retrieve animal from repository. So in that way, all we have to do is just, instead of importing animal repo, we will import the adapter. So let's take a look at that. So here's our new animal repo adapter. First of all, obviously we're importing the new animal repo, no biggie there, but let's take a look at what we've done here. We really have two problems to solve. First of all, we need to be able to solve the problem of to know when it's actually going to be ready. Now, in our code, we passed it a when ready method, a when ready function, so we're going to try to tell our adapter to do the same thing. So in this particular case here, let's take a look at our constructor. The constructor is going to, again, get the when ready. It's going to create a new animal repo instance. And it's going to internalize this particular instance and then basically call whatever it has to within that instance to be able to send out the data over to us. So we're going to create a routine called wait for then ready. Then we're going to call our when ready function. So the key here is to be able to solve our first problem, how do we know when it's ready, is we're going to create our own method. And this is just something I threw together real quick. There's a couple hundred different ways you can probably do this. This is the way I did it here. Basically, I've done a little set interval that this set interval will wait for 5 seconds, parsing it once every 100 seconds to know when the when ready is set. Because with the new animal repo, I noticed that, I'm sorry, not when ready, what is ready is set within the new animal repo. I know that we're ready to go. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to wait for at least 5,000 milliseconds or 5 total seconds to know when it is ready. So this little set timer just basically just keeps parsing it until either it's ready or the timeout is equal to 0. And in this case, if it's ready, we resolve it. If it is 0, we reject it. Real simple. But this is just one possible way you can sit there and just wait for the is ready to occur on the instance. So this will solve the problem with the when ready, with us passing the when ready function to say, hey, let me know when you're ready. So once the wait for ready occurs, it's either going to resolve it. If it resolves it, we do the when ready, just like we did with the animal repo, right? As you see right here. And otherwise we do a catch word, get an error. We have to handle the error something else. So that will solve the problem with the when ready. What's the second problem? Well, the second problem here is that this is retrieving an animal repository. This is saying retrieve animal repository, but we were looking for originally an add animal. So how do we fix that? Well, that's real easy. We call an add animal. And what does add animal do? It calls the retrieve animal from repository. And remember, the retrieve animal from repository returns just the JSON data, doesn't return anything else. So we also have to convert it into a regular TR element or formatted TR element, just like our animal repo. So what have we done here? We've now created a new animal repo adapter that not only now does the when ready method or callback when the repo is ready, but also gives us an add animal that will simulate what we had before. So by writing this new animal repo adapter, we can now talk to the new animal repo without changing our code, with of course one exception. We now got to say new animal repo adapter. And of course we got to take that out, and then actually we're going to import it as animal repo. Let's do it right. If we do it as animal repo, because remember, we're doing it as a default, so we can rename it anything we want to. By renaming it also animal repo, we now don't have to change anything within our code. Why? Because the new animal repo adapter has the add animal, and it has the when ready methods taken care of for us. And that's it. That's all we had to do. With our client code, we just had to point to a different class. So instead of pointing to the animal repo, we can now point to the new animal repo adapter. And we could also have built this adapter for animal repo. We could also build adapters for any other repositories that might happen to come through later on. So how does this run? Let's go into JavaScript. Let's go into our browser. Let's Control F5 because we've got the old stuff there. Remember, the fill zoo does not go active until the when ready is called. The when ready has been called. We click on fill zoo, and there we go. There's our 50 animals. So when your boss comes up to you and says, hey, I've now got a new completely super duper animal repo, you're going to start using that one, you're going to say, no problem. You're just going to build yourself a new adapter to be able to pass to it the when ready and the add animal, and of course the remove animal or the change animal, whatever you do. And that's the power of the adapter pattern. By having this adapter between the client and whatever object we happen to be talking to, we can change that object any way we want to. All we have to do is just change the adapter or change what adapter our client is pointing to, and our client does not have to change their API whatsoever. It makes your code maintainable and easy to work with. And that's all there is to the adapter pattern. I hope you enjoyed our video. Hope I didn't bore you to death. Please make sure you click on the like button below and click on the subscribe button to subscribe to this channel. Also, you can go to www.boringjavascript.com to see all the videos we've produced. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you later.